Hey Siri, turn on the studio. Okay. Can you hear me okay? All right. Yeah, I can hear myself there. Okay. Is the front better? Now let's just go for it as it is. Bear with me here. A little under the weather this week. Who else is not in? But, is it registering the sound? Is it registering the sound? Sound check. Okay, I'm gonna have to project. I might have to bring it in a little bit. Let's put auto gain on this channel. Pardon me for talking to myself. There's not a lot of time today, and to fill this dead space, I've got to do some tests. Hey Siri. quick sound check. Oh yeah, I can hear myself now. Excellent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in 23 minutes. Good morning. Hi, I'm Ryan Burdell. I run the live stream. Today's service is going to be an interesting hybrid because, as you can see, the church is empty, but we are still streaming because I am in my studio at home and I am remoted into the church's system. And this video is coming from my iPhone going into our server at church and then coming back to this computer. So it's going to be a little interesting because I'm running the show and I'm also talking, but we're going to have some elements that are live. The live chat is live. I'm real and really talking. This isn't a recording. And I have found a really, really good sermon. And one of the songs that we sang in that service happened to be on the agenda for this week as far as what we were going to sing for in person. So we'll have some music. We'll have a very short scripture reading before the sermon, and I will do my best to do the Lord's Prayer from memory. But a lot of this is going to be, how to put this? It's going to be a truncated, shorter service than normal. All right. Bear with me for just a moment, and I'm going to make some changes here, and we'll get started. I meant to do that. All right. Okay. Hand out of the way. All right. Blocking the comments for the moment, but if you'll bear with me, normally after the song, we do the Lord's Prayer. So let's see if I can do it from memory. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, so this wonderful sermon is from August 30th of last year, and I will do a scripture reading here in a moment, but I am going to set the camera down and just do this audio only so my hand's free so I can get the sermon ready to go. Don't do that. Fun with microphones. Okay. Today's sermon is a reading of Genesis 45, chapters 1 through 15. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried out, "Send everyone away from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, so dismayed were they at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." And they came closer. And he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land for these 2 years, and there are 5 more years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors." Oh, forgive me. This is what happens when you multitask. Many survivors. There we go. Okay. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, "Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come to me. Do not delay. You shall settle in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, as well as your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. I will provide for you there, since there are 5 more years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have will not come to poverty. And now your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my own mouth that speaks to you. You must tell my father how greatly I am honored in Egypt and all that you have seen. Hurry and bring my father down here." Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, while Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers, and he wept upon them. After that, his brothers talked with him. There we go. That is the end of the scripture. Again, that is Genesis 45, 1 through 15. Forgive me, I'm recovering a little bit from being under the weather, and so I'm just a little scruffy. Okay. Now I'm going to bring up the sermon now by Pastor Terry, recorded originally on August 30th, 2023. Oh, kill the mic.
Rose to power, and that's the happy story that we're told. But there's a whole lot more to this story than that. First of all, Joseph was a young man initially. He was probably a teenager, and he was arrogant. I mean, he was arrogant. He was a tattletale. His dad sent him out to help herd the goats and the sheep with some relatives, and he came back and he told on them for what they weren't doing right. And everybody knew that he was Jacob's favorite because Jacob had a special coat made just for him. And you better believe that when he was wandering around Israel, he was going, "See my coat? My dad loves me best. I'm his favorite. I have 2 kids, and I tell them both are my favorite, but not in front of each other. And I'm not buying a coat for them. Not anymore. They're on their own. And so then, to make matters worse, he begins to tattle on his brothers, and he starts telling about these dreams he's having. Well, I had this dream that we were out in the field and we were bundling sheaves, and mine stood upright, and all of yours bowed to mine. And the brothers, who are already angry because he's arrogant, he's cocky, he's dad's favorite, are like, you think we're going to serve you? That dream is bogus, brother. It ain't happening. Forget yourself. And then later he has another dream where the same kind of thing happens, where everybody's going to be bowing down to Joseph. And even his dad rebukes him and is like, you're an idiot. Go to your room. And even in the passage I just read, and this just dawned on me as I was reading it to you, he's still arrogant. Look at me. Look what I've accomplished. Go back and tell Dad that I'm the ruler over all of Egypt. The arrogance doesn't end at the end of the story. Now, his brothers have had enough of this, right? He's Dad's favorite. We're worried about the inheritance. Dad loves him more. Look at the coat he got. We didn't get a coat. He's a tattletale. He thinks he's better than us. So let's do this. Next time a trading caravan comes by, no, the first story was, let's throw him in the pit and kill him. That's kind of dramatic. And Reuben goes, no. We're not going to kill him, but let's throw him in the pit. He'll die of starvation and lack of water anyway. It won't be on our hands, and all's good, right? So the other brothers reluctantly agree because they really want to kill this kid. And so while Reuben's gone, apparently, I don't know where he was at, these people start seeing these trading caravans go by, the brothers, and they go, you know what we should do? Let's sell him into slavery, and then we'll take that coat that Dad gave him, and we'll cover it with the blood of a lamb, and we'll tell Dad, hey, he was eaten by a lion. He was killed by some wild animal. And that way, nobody's going to blame us. And so they did it. They sold him, this 16 or 17-year-old boy, into slavery to this caravan. And they took the coat, and they covered it in blood, and they sent it back to Jacob, and Jacob wept and wailed and mourned. He tore his clothes. He sat in ashes because he had lost his favorite son. She's a crawling today, isn't she? And so it turns out that Joseph gets sold into slavery in Egypt, and he goes, and a guy named Potiphar buys him as his servant, as his slave. And he starts to recognize that this kid's got some potential here. He's got some good character traits other than his arrogance. And he's a really good manager. So pretty soon, Potiphar starts giving him more and more responsibility until the next thing you know, he's running Potiphar's house. He's gone from being a slave to somebody important. He's gained status and he's gained power, even if it's just over this one house. But he's grown. He's matured. And then as luck would have it, Potiphar's wife decides that she likes Joseph and makes several attempts to keep him with her. And he sticks to his guns and his morals. He said, no, I can't do this. It's against God and it's against Potiphar. It's wrong. And finally, one day she grabs his clothes and tries to keep him in her bedroom. And he strips out of his clothes and he runs off, thinking he's faithful to his vows, only to have her tell her husband that Joseph tried to stay with her, to rape her. Now, what can Potiphar do, right? It's his wife. He's got to believe her. And so he sends Joseph to jail. Another, oh crap. And then while he's in jail, the main jail keeper starts recognizing that he's got skills. He's a good leader. He's a good manager. So he starts putting him in charge of the other prisoners. And he begins to gain some more status. He's got some meaningful work to do. He's not so much a slave now as a servant. And he starts interpreting dreams for people. And the dreams turn out to be true. And then we get to Pharaoh and the famine. Pharaoh has two, they call them dreams in the Bible, but for me they'd be nightmares. The first one was that there was 7 scrawny, malnutrition cows that were wandering around. And it was like, ooh, not getting any meat out of those guys. And then in the other part of the dream, there were 7 fat, beautiful cows ready for butcher that were well off. And all of a sudden, the 7 emaciated cows became cannibals and started eating the 7 good cows, the ones that were worth something. Now, that's not a dream, folks. That's a nightmare. And if that's not bad enough, he has another dream where there's one stalk that's got 7 ears of corn where there's hardly any kernels on it. It doesn't taste very good. And, there's big old open spots in the corn. And then in the other part of the dream, there's 7 ears of corn that are perfectly spaced. Every kernel is perfectly proportioned to the end, and they're all in perfectly unique rows. They're all nice and yellow. And then suddenly, those 7 bad ears of corn devour the good ears of corn. Pharaoh is beside himself because people believed in dreams a lot back then. He's going, I don't know what this means. I don't get it. And so he calls all the smart people in Egypt to interpret his dream, and none of them have a clue. Then the cupbearer goes, hey, there was this guy named Joseph when I was in jail down there. He can interpret dreams. Well, go get him. What are you waiting for? And he shows up, and Pharaoh recounts his dreams, and Joseph interprets them correctly by saying, there's going to be 7 years of famine. No food, no rain. You're not going to be able to till the soil, plant, or anything because 7 years of famine are coming. And what I suggest to you, Pharaoh, is that you appoint someone to start building storehouses now, to start storing the excess grain. So when we get to that 7-year famine, we can survive it. And Pharaoh is so impressed by him, he puts him in charge of the plan. And pretty soon, he's second in command of all of Egypt. And he executes this plan. He builds the storehouses. He saves all the excess. He probably has the farmers plant more. So they'll have enough to not only for Egypt to get through 7 years, but everybody around there. And he has grown to such prominence with such success that he's able to call himself a father to Pharaoh. And what that means is that he was so well respected and so powerful that he was an advisor to Pharaoh. And you just heard when I read the arrogance that came with that, right? The arrogance that came with that. Go tell my dad what's happened. I've rose to prominence. I'm powerful. I decide who eats and who doesn't. I decide who lives and who dies. Go tell my dad I'm a success. And all that time, he's harboring the hurt and the pain and the hate of what he's been through because of what his brothers have done. Sometimes our families of origins are our worst enemies. The things we experience growing up make us who we are now, and if they're bad experiences, and if something doesn't happen to change us, we're destined to live out that script that we've been taught. And even if you came from a good background and a happy family, if you're stuck in the now, you're not growing. So holding on to the hurts keeps us in the present, rooted in the past, and we can't grow, we can't heal, we can't change. And so as luck would have it, his family needs food. So they take the donkeys and money to buy the food, and they show up before Joseph, and they don't recognize him. And he messes with them. He's still mad, so he starts messing with them, right? After he questions them and wants to know about their father, which they'd be going, what? How does he know Dad? He sends them back with all the money they've given, and they find the money and think, oh no, we're in big trouble now. They're going to think we stole it. And sure enough, they come after him. They accuse him of stealing it. So then they have to come back. He lets them go. Then they come back with more food and more money, as well as the money they was supposedly stolen to get more food. And Joseph has all that money put back in there. He's messing with them. He throws them in jail. He makes their lives hard. He tells them that if your youngest brother Benjamin doesn't show up, you won't get any food, and I'm not letting any of you out of jail either. He's so hurt, and he's so angry still that he becomes vindictive. He's going to make those brothers pay for what they did to me. I'm going to make their lives miserable, and arrogant me has the power to do it. So in the part we just read, finally, Joseph realizes that all this vitriol, all this hate, all this anger needs to end. And he reveals himself to his brothers, and they're scared to death, right? This dude is the second in command of England. England, where'd that come from? I know where that came from, you. In all of Egypt. He could kill us. He could throw us in jail. But instead, he decides to forgive. And this doesn't happen immediately overnight. Reconciliation doesn't necessarily happen here. But he finally gives up on holding on to the hurt and the anger, and he begins to heal their relationships. And he says something really strange. He says, you didn't sell me into slavery. God sent me here so this moment would happen so that I can save our family, so that you can come and move here. I have the power to do that. I can make sure you're fed, that you're cared for. So stop worrying and feeling guilty or angry about what you did, because I'm over it now. God used it for good. And he begins to cry. He's so overtaken with emotion. He begins to wail so loud that all of Egypt hear it. This arrogant person who's full of himself finally becomes humble enough to forgive others, to let go of the hurt, to let go of the pain, and to reconcile with those people. There's a lot of stories of reconciliation in the Bible. In fact, when we talk about God's justice, what we're really talking about is reconciliation, where God is putting things back to right. And there's two lessons that we can learn from today's passage. The first, you probably already know what I'm going to say. I don't personally believe that God causes bad things to happen, but I believe God can use bad things for good. And that's exactly what happened here in the life of Joseph. Thrown in the pit, sold into slavery, separated from his family, Potiphar's wife, jail. He had a lot of bad things happen to him. And yet God used them for good so that he could save an entire region, an entire country from starvation. He put him in a position where he would run into his family at some point and he could heal the hurts, and he could reconcile their differences and start the process of forgiving. So when people have hurt you and people have hurt me, when we're carrying around that anger and that hurt and that disappointment, guess what? God can use it for good. I know that's hard to believe. And sometimes the people that we're closest to are the ones that have hurt us the most deeply, because there's so much invested in that relationship. It hurts so bad. And it's hard to believe that God can use that pain for good, but he can. And the second thing, it's about reconciliation. As long as you're holding on to the pain of hurt from other people, well, first I'm going to give you a little example. Yeah, I got time. So my dad left when I was 17 years old, and over the years I found out that he had been unfaithful to my mom on numerous occasions. I did 23andMe, and I keep getting things. You have new relatives. Like, no, I don't. No, I don't. Don't want to know them. They're not my relatives. And I don't know if they're, I just don't know for sure. I just don't want to know. He lied to me about a bunch of stuff. He actually took money that was belonged to me and cashed it out so he could survive. He created a lot of hurt. In fact, because I still did things with my dad after he left, my mom and my sisters didn't like me much, let's just put it that way. I felt ostracized from my family. So not only did I have the hurt from my dad and what he'd done to our family and to my mom, now I had the hurt from the rest of my family. My dad lied to me. He stole from me. He just picked up one day and moved in with another family. Did he like them more than me? And I never wanted to admit this for years because I decided that I would never be like my dad. But you know what? Those wounds are still there. And I've never cheated on my wife, but I'm more like my dad than I care to admit. Selfish, arrogant, self-centered. And I'm having to learn that lesson really hard right now, in a really difficult way. But what I learned is that holding on to those hurts wasn't helping me. It wasn't going to change my dad. I needed to recognize what those hurts had done to me and begin to put them aside, to try to forgive my dad. Unfortunately, he died over 20 years ago, and we never reconciled. I was never able to ask for forgiveness or get his. And it still impacts me at 65 years old. I don't know who's hurt you or what kind of hurt it was, what pain other people have caused in your lives, what distance there is between you and them now. But God can use that pain to heal those relationships so that you can offer forgiveness even if it's not asked for. Because when people do these hurts, they take part of our power away from us. And when we learn to forgive, we take that power back. They no longer control that part of our life. And they don't even have to accept the forgiveness. We just have to do it. Just think what the world would be like if we all learned to deal with the hurts and our pains in our lives, to come up with ways of setting them aside, to come up with ways of forgiving and reconciling. There wouldn't be wars. There wouldn't be skirmishes. There wouldn't be homeless people and poor people. Because we would all care enough to find out how they were hurt and help them heal. Maybe it's people who lost loved ones and they're just spinning because they don't know where to land. And they're hurt because God took that person away from them. Maybe you're mad at God for the hurt. Like Vicky said, God's big enough to hear your anger. Let it out and then heal. Because God can use pain and suffering and uncertainty to bring good in your life and the people around you. People who preach about it. There was a stage play, was it Joseph?
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you so much for coming today and watching. Hopefully, in the future, we'll be able to use this video technology that I'm using here to have Pastor Terry be at the parsonage and actually do a live sermon, but we just did not have time to do all the testing and technological stuff that we had to do to make that happen. This is a live shot of the church. So yeah, catch us next week, and I really appreciate everyone who showed up, and thank you for bearing with me as I've tried to do this live hybrid recorded video Sunday. Have a fantastic week. I should probably put up the donation site. Yeah, it's right there. Yay! Okay, there we go. Stay warm. And have a fantastic week. I'll see you around the bend.